everyone, and thank you for patiently waiting. Welcome to our National Graduate Week. I'm your host, Josh from CareerMap TV, and today we're joined by Babcock. During this session, we'll learn what it's like to work at Babcock and get some great insights from current employers. There will be a Q&A segment at the end of the webinar, so feel free to leave any questions in the chat box and we'll get back to them after the presentation. So without further ado, I'll now pass it over to the Babcock team to start their session. Off you go, guys.
Thanks very much, Joshua. Thanks very much for introducing us. My name's Mark Wilson. I'm the Group People Director responsible for talent acquisition for Babcock. I'm joined today by a number of colleagues who either have been participants within our graduate program and been through a graduate hiring experience with us recently or are responsible for that. The idea being is that we should be able to provide as much information as possible for anybody attending this webinar to understand a bit more about who we are, what we do, what we're looking for, and what the process is to join us. Give you a little bit of background information on myself. So I've been with Babcock coming up for 2 years now. Prior to joining Babcock, I worked within the automotive industry, where I worked for a couple of car companies running large, complex recruitment programs for them. And before that, I worked with the British Army, with the NHS, and with the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority, again running all sorts of different recruitment programs within those businesses. From a qualifications perspective, it was a long time ago. I did do a physics degree back in the midst of time, and I've done a master's degree while I've been working in the meantime. Learning is continuous, it never stops. But it's proved to be useful at various points in my degree, and it's definitely helped from my career, and it's definitely helped me in terms of my career progression, things I've been able to do, and opportunities that I've had as I've been able to progress over time. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey thus far and continues to be so. So we've got some slides to run through with a bit of information on us as a business, and fundamentally the key message from Babcock is that our purpose is to create a safe and secure world together. Babcock, if you don't know, are a defence business providing services to the defence industry globally. We have a high level of presence in the UK. We employ about 30,000 people across the world, and 23,000 of them are based in the UK in various locations. I'll touch on some of the other locations as we go through, and we support our customers in ensuring their ability to undertake the tasks that they want to be doing across defence sector, on land, sea, air, and within civil nuclear as well, where we're working within decommissioning and in new nuclear build in the UK. So touching on that, where do we do it? We're working in the UK, Australia, Canada, France, and South Africa. And we're providing engineering services, equipment, support, training, product design, manufacture, and the integration of various technologies across marine, nuclear, land, and aviation sectors. If we go into a little bit more detail about what those sectors are. So our marine sector, the largest project that we have from a marine perspective is building ships. So we're building a series of ships for the Royal Navy in Rosyth in Scotland. Type 31 is the class of ship. We support life extension for current surface fleet in Devonport and Plymouth. And we have additional support that we provide through our liquid gas equipment, which is for liquefaction of natural gas, which again, that work is undertaken in Rosyth. We've got design and build of comm systems for the marine environment. A nuclear division really falls into two clear categories: defence nuclear and civil nuclear. So from a defence perspective, we support the UK's nuclear submarine fleet in Clyde at Fastlane in Scotland, and in Devonport, where again we undertake similar work with life extension of the fleet of submarines that are part of the Royal Navy's key infrastructure. We also support civil nuclear. So the largest construction site in Europe is Hinkley Point C, which has about 9,000 people working there. And we're part of the consortia delivering the build of that nuclear power station. And we will be part of the consortia supporting the build of Sizewell C, which is just starting to get cracking as we speak. We also support on the decommissioning of legacy nuclear fleet in Sellafield and across the Magnox estate. We'll be moving into the AGR estate. So lots of work happening from a nuclear perspective, which you may or may not be aware has got significant growth plans in the UK as we move to a decarbonised future. Our land business supports predominantly the Army with training and with the maintenance and the support of delivery of vehicles to the Army. With 6,500 people dotted across nearly 200 locations in the UK, supporting a whole range of work from vehicle build, vehicle maintenance. We also support and build Metropolitan Police's car fleet. So putting blue lights on and putting all the equipment into police cars. And we undertake a whole range of activities within that sector. And our aviation sector is mainly in the UK, based in Valley, in Anglesey, where we support the training fleet for the RAF, which is delivered from there, and the display team, the Red Arrows, are also operating from that site. We have other aviation businesses operating globally in France, where we have medical helicopters, and in Canada, where we have a fleet of firefighting aircraft that operate in Canada. Where do we do it? I think you've heard me mention a couple of our locations. A lot of our work happens in the southwest. So Plymouth, Bristol is where a lot of the defence sector is based in the UK anyway, with large centre of importance in Bristol and Abbey Wood. And obviously our facilities in Plymouth, where we have 7,000 people working across the 23 docks that are available in Devonport. We have a significant presence in Warrington, which is the home of the UK civil nuclear industry, along with a number of our competitors that are based there. And in Scotland, we have our sites in Clyde on the west coast and Rosyth on the east coast. All in all, that results in the 23,800 or so people dotted across those locations. Leicester's highlighted there because that's what I'm speaking to you from today. And then you can see globally we have the operations, as mentioned, in Canada and in France and South Africa, and quite importantly in Australia and New Zealand, where we are becoming increasingly involved in the work associated with AUKUS, which is the partnership between Australia, UK and the US to supply a submarine fleet to the Australian Navy. Very importantly for us, these are our principles. So a lot of the things that we do, both within the business and how we face off externally, are based around these 6 principles, including how we look to align candidates' behaviour or people that are coming to join us, their behaviours when we're assessing to come in. Our principles include curiosity. So are we actively looking at how things can be changed? How can we do things? Why do we do things in a certain way? We look to think outcomes. We're a commercial business, so we want to work on how do we do that thing better? How can we exceed the customer's expectations on the activities that we choose to undertake? Being kind, both to ourselves, our colleagues, the environment, and the communities in which we operate is very much a key element to how we want to deliver our business or how we want to undertake our activities. It's very important for us in certain places. We're by far the largest employer. If I think of Plymouth, for example, we have to be representative of that community in our activities and show that we're an integral part of the communities in which we operate. We look to collaborate. We work closely together. Operating individually doesn't deliver the results that we need to deliver at the pace and to the quality that we need to be undertaking them. We work in teams constantly. We'll touch on this as we go further through our conversation and speak to our colleagues. But collaboration is a key element in how we ensure that we're able to undertake the tasks that we're asked to do. We have to be brave. Sometimes the things that we're being asked to do are quite scary, and it takes us out of our comfort zones. So we look to have that courageousness in our approach to work. And you have to own what you're here to do. So stand up to what you stand up to what you stand by, and deliver what you've been asked to deliver. So these are the principles that we look to bring to life through our activities, and we look to live these values on a daily basis. And then if I can hand over to Kirsten to talk through the next couple of slides in terms of what we choose to do.
Hello. So I'm Kirsten Webb. I'm a second year graduate systems engineer. So I've been with the company for a year now. I do not come from an engineering background. My degree was actually in maths and I specialised in pure maths. So you don't need an engineering degree to become an engineer. It's very flexible. So the basis of STEM tends to be fairly fluid. So on the subject of STEM, technology, everything we do in some way, shape or form realistically is connected to technology. If you look at the defense industry, it has always been on the forefront of technology. Even when it was muskets, that was the forefront of technology. So we are always seeing everything new coming in. We are at the front of that. So if that's interesting to you, it's a very good place to be. Again, yeah, we work in the sky, in the sea, to the bottom of the ocean. And there are opportunities to, sorry, I was just recovering from an illness. There are opportunities to innovate and there are opportunities to go beyond. So recently, if you remember our principles on the previous slide, I won an award because I, alongside my job, made some stuff to benefit the company. And that was recognized and appreciated, and has opened up some really great opportunities for me. That just comes back to trying to innovate and, as it says, applying our engineering insight. And that goes for an individual as well as the company. So something that we do focus very heavily on, as well as technology, is the sustainability aspect. Now, obviously, we have all grown up, well, I'm assuming most of us have grown up with the whole global warming. It needs to change, and we're finally in a position where a lot of big companies are beginning to recognize this, and Babcock's really taking it in its stride. And we don't just wait till the end of a project and go, we'll throw it away like this. We start from the get-go. We say, right, well, what are we going to do to limit the impact we have on the environment? How are we going to sort of minimize the long-term effects, especially when it comes to nuclear? That's a big topic, because it lasts for so long. You can't just, with metal you could repurpose, you can throw away. With nuclear it's a bit trickier. And we have, as you can see on the slide, a few targets relating to sustainability, and I think most people would say we're doing fairly well in how everything's going. And we don't just limit this to our big projects. We also have things like a cycle to work scheme. We do a fair bit of volunteering in the community as well, like cleaning up various, I can't think of the right word for it, but gardens and that sort of stuff. So we do aim, not just on a big scale, but on a smaller scale, to create a sustainable living environment. This is something we do try to do globally, but obviously with such a big presence in the UK, it is a bit easier to do. So why Babcock? I've really enjoyed my time here so far. The people do recognise when you do good work. You do get thanked, and that makes such a difference, because a lot of my friends are in graduate roles in different companies, and I know they sometimes don't experience the same level of recognition. We have monthly meetings where you can recognise people and submit this to the wider business unit. We let people do a variety of things. So again, I come from a pure maths background. That has not hindered me in any way. I've been very open with it, saying I don't know anything about engineering, and everyone's always said, that's fine, you'll learn. We can teach you engineering. It's not be all end all. So that's been fantastic. It's a stable job. It's a very safe industry to be in, because it's not disappearing anytime soon. It's exciting. No day is exactly the same. I've been here a few months. I've worked on submarines, I've worked on satellites, I've done all sorts of stuff. You learn so much. You go on, I can see behind me, these are all from various training courses I've been on, where you get little certificates at the end, which I love having little certificates. And you get to learn a ton of stuff. This is all applicable to your CV. Babcock does help through the graduate scheme to get you accreditation. So I'm sure most of you have heard of things like IAMECI and IET. We do support that. And you can do some of that on company time. You also get to experience, if you wouldn't think, we do have STEM projects. So we do go into schools and work with children of all ages. So from young, 7 or so, right up to university. So you do actually get to experience being in different environments and seeing what's going on. And there are opportunities to travel. So I'd really recommend it to anyone who wants to go into engineering and wants to experience sort of just a wide range. And I'm going to hand over now so we can discuss the job roles we have. There is a link in the chat for anyone who wants to look at that later.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kirsten. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Basola, and I'm one of the recruitment business partners within early careers at Babcock. So you will hear a bit from me later on, but I just wanted to highlight some of the roles that we have currently open on the Babcock Early Careers website. So there has been a link passed on in the chat. So please do feel free to go onto the website and review the roles that we currently have open. So we do have a few engineering roles open, as you can see on the screen: civil engineering, electrical, naval architecture, mechanical, process. And then we do have a few sciences and business management roles as well. So health physics and science, radiation protection, and then we've got some business management roles as well. So in commercial, again, these are multiple locations. So Mark already touched upon it earlier. So Babcock, we do operate in different locations, just to name a few again that Mark has already mentioned. So Rosyth, Clyde, Bristol, Plymouth, Warrington, Leicester. So we do have roles available in all locations. We do also have the project management graduate program. So that's available in the locations on the slide. So Plymouth, Bristol, Warrington, Newbury, Glasgow, and Clyde. And we do actually also have undergraduate programs, so summer internships and a year placements available on the website as well within Plymouth. Just to mention as well, we do potentially have some roles that we will be going live with maybe next year to start in March. So it will be electrical engineering roles for graduates who have already graduated. So if you are interested in that, please do register your interest or keep an eye out on the website. So I will now pass over to some of the graduates for you to find out a bit more about what they've been doing on the graduate program.
Thanks, Basola. So, hi everyone. I'm Isla, one of the graduates here at Babcock, and along with Thomas, I'm just going to run you through what my experience in the graduate scheme's been, because it's been fantastic listening to my colleagues talk about Babcock as a company and all the different things that we do. But one thing to say is no two graduate schemes are the same experience. So to kind of give you a flavour of what it could be like and the opportunities available, I just thought I'd take you through it. So I kind of start off with, I know that most people here are either in like the final year at university or have just graduated. So I thought I'd kind of give a bit of background on where I started, kind of like Mark did as well. So I graduated last year with a Master's in Mechanical Engineering with Aeronautics from Strathclyde University. It was a 5-year course, integrated Masters up in Scotland, if you can't tell by the accent. In which I did the kind of basic course, but also had a wide variety of things that I did. So kind of upon graduation, 5 years, I was part of my Formula student team, working my way up from electrical, mechanical team member, whether it be chassis, wheels, whatever, all the way up to the operations team manager, managing sponsorship, social media, business costs, etc. I also was on the I Make a Young Members panel in Glasgow and was lucky enough to do a summer internship at Babcock in 2021-2022 in advanced manufacture. And part of the reason why I was lucky was purely on the basis that I enjoyed what I did. So I took that on at the end and went over to Babcock on the grad scheme and started last September. So moving on from kind of where I was there, the sort of work that I did, you can kind of see what I did was quite varied. And it kind of touches on some of the points that Kirsten was mentioning about kind of travel and different projects and different work, where essentially I kind of went into the graduate scheme starting off on my first placement as a production engineer. So to give you kind of a rough outline of the graduate scheme, depending on what your scheme is, but generally speaking, you work on placement rotations. So in my graduate scheme, I do 6-month placements over the 2 years. So I have like 4 placements total. And so my first placement, I jumped straight into being a production engineer. So I can't give the details on the project, but I was essentially working part-time shop floor, part-time up in the office, in very much like an active working environment, producing, very high detailed advanced manufactured items for our client. So that involved me going straight into learning about an industry in an area that I had no awareness of before, walking straight into an environment where tolerancing was a massive point of discussion, which I don't know if many people have done engineering at uni, but tolerancing isn't something that maybe is as focused on as before. And essentially walking in an environment where the real kind of engineering skill set was displayed. And I was very much welcomed by my team. Kind of like Kirsten said, everyone is happy to contribute towards your learning, and it's okay to say that you don't know something. And so I did 6 months there working on kind of pushing certain improvement projects to the forefront to put in some long-term solutions to some engineering issues, and a heck of a lot more. Finishing up that, I then went on to a design engineer placement over on the Type 31 project. So up in Rosyth, we are building the Type 31 frigates for the government. And I was working as a design engineer in their engineering support to build team. So supporting the build of the ship. And then later going into looking at the shock analysis surrounding the ship in terms of survivability, checking the mount bases, making sure those are all in check and to codes for multiple different items. So that was a real learning point in terms of design engineering, kind of doing your basic CAD ANSYS, but also going further than that. And then on my most recent placement, I've come in as a project manager. So again, kind of that flavor of different roles, different projects, different responsibilities. So I'm working with small modular reactors at the moment as a project manager on one of the projects that we're running. So that has opened my eyes to project governance, to managing a full team of multiple disciplines, whether it be engineers, it be cost specialists, it be quality managers, etc. So that is completely pushed me to my limits, and also just given a wider range of insight into the work that we do. On top of all that, like Kirsten kind of mentioned, with sustainability and with outreach, up in Rosyth, we are also the top employer for Fife. So we do a lot of outreach to our local community, just kind of supporting, ultimately what is like where our employees live and where their families are based. And so upon joining the graduate scheme, I signed up to be STEM lead for Rosyth. So I took the lead in organising STEM events at schools, so reaching out to primary schools and high schools, organising outreach and setting up fun events for the kids to do, and then also then careers presentations and consultations and mock interviews for high schoolers. And that led on to doing the Festival of Engineering, which fully Babcock funded and pushed for. Is essentially a big event that we do every year at site, where we invite 6 local schools along for a full day worth of activities. And we have external companies come in and run VR and hydraulic kits and just a bunch of really fun, engaging activities to really just inspire the next generation of engineers, mathematicians, software engineers, etc. So that's been a great experience. And then I also have jumped on the back just off of doing Formula Student. I helped organise Babcock's sponsorship of the Formula Student event, the AI event this year, and us attending as a company to fully kind of support that, the Formula Student teams that were there and the competition. And that's led to me in my second year on the grad scheme now being joint Formula Student program manager at the company. So if there's nothing else to say, there are a lot of opportunities within the company to reach out into your interests, to investigate maybe areas that you don't know so well, develop new interests, and generally progress. So overall, in just the past year, I've been doing work on my placements. I've been contributing towards my engineering chartership, which the company has fully supported by providing me a mentor for. I've also been quite involved in community outreach, as well as contributing towards rather large and advanced projects. So yeah, I'll kind of lead on to Thomas after that explanation for him to take you through what he's done in the past year on his scheme. Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Isla. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tom Hodges. Thanks for joining us today. I'm a second year graduate as well, but I'm on the radiation protection program with Cavendish Nuclear. Cavendish Nuclear is a part of Babcock's nuclear sector that focuses more on the civil nuclear consultancy projects, but we also engage in defence work as well. I'm going to take a little bit of time to just tell you about myself and what I've been up to, how I got onto the graduate program and how it's been so far. So to start off a little bit about myself as well, I'm from Northeast London originally, just on the border of Essex. I've got a pretty good passion for science. I like physics, and enough so that I studied astrophysics at the University of Hertfordshire. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in 2020, and then after that, it took me a little while to sort of find a job that would be a career starter. So I moved around from things like being a hospital housekeeper during the pandemic, having a placement on the government's Kickstart scheme, and then working as a store assistant at Aldi all the way up until I started at Babcock on the radiation protection scheme. On finding the role I'm in now, a friend of mine from university had also joined the nuclear industry back in 2021. They told me I should think about finding roles in the field because they thought I'd enjoy it a lot. It's got things I like in it, such as dealing with data, talking and mediating with people, be it clients or team members, and also the science. They also mentioned that the nuclear industry is going through a bit of a growth spurt at the moment, and it's worth noting because there's a lot more roles available. There's a load of work, especially in the UK, for the nuclear industry at the moment. So now's a great time to try and get stuck in. I got searching for job opportunities throughout the nuclear industry, and ended up finding myself Babcock's really long list. You'll see in the link that's in the chat of different graduate roles, and I thought this is probably the place to be. Lo and behold, there was a position open for 2023's intake for radiation protection grads, so I got working on an application straight away. Some of the applications did look interesting to me as well, but my friend said radiation protection, so I was like, why not? There were a few rounds in the application, so initial cover letter, aptitude test, an assessment center with a presentation and an interview, which was direct to the some of the members of the radiation protection team. So it was good to have that in the hiring process, talking to the people that you'll actually be working with. So that felt like I could really make a strong connection with them in the interview process. I'd done some reading on Babcock and Cavendish Nuclear's company principles, and I felt like I resonated with them a lot. It's worth doing your research on the company's values and how you might bring those aspects to the table with your own unique skill set. It's not necessarily about conforming to the principles at all. It's more about bringing your strength and your best self to the table and seeing how the principles shine through you. One of the principles that really resonated with me was to be curious. On a grad scheme with lots to learn in a new place, I found that being curious and asking questions helped carry me a long way and definitely opened a lot of doors for me in terms of opportunities for placements, meeting new people, taking part in events and gaining experience such as this one. And on that, a lot of the graduates before us, when they were giving us advice, one of the key points was to say yes to everything, which is something I've tried to stick to. It's even led me here today. The opportunities that come up from saying yes to things that you might normally not consider end up building new relationships and sort of illuminating these opportunities. You might not always know where you're going to end up, but it's always exciting and it's always valuable. I ended up landing the role. I'm the first radiation protection graduate for Cavendish Nuclear, at least. I'm sure there's been more in Babcock as well, but for the past 6 years. So it's been an experience getting to meet the team. It's been great. There was an induction that we got with early careers. There's an early careers team that sort of they're with you and they guide and curtail your journey as you go through the graduate experience. So you've always got people in your corner. They provide things like training, behavioral and professional development. So sort of your continuous professional development. They provide things on that. After the induction, I got to meet my line manager and mentor, as well as a lot of the team, the radiation protection team with Cavendish. Since the team's quite small and they're spread out over the UK, it was great to meet them in person because I don't always get the chance to. But I feel like I've quickly slipped into a good relationship with them. They're a super friendly bunch. You'll find the same throughout the company. Everywhere I go, people are always ready and willing to help you out. My team gave me a bunch of support at the start, which was really helpful at easing me into the role, and they made the job really enjoyable. As for what projects I've been on, I've been fortunate to work on quite a few interesting things. I'm also, the graduate scheme, as mentioned before, has these rotational placements for the first 2 years. Some graduate schemes have you in a substantive role after that. So the first project I've been working on was the submarine dismantling project up at Rosyth. They're taking apart ex-service nuclear subs and recycling them. So my role on this has been helping to assess doses associated with radiation and writing reports and providing advice to the project on how to keep our people safe, how to keep everyone safe whilst we're doing this. And that's a big part of what we do here, especially in the nuclear industry, is a key focus on safety. So whether you're in engineering or if you're in the sciences, wherever you are, it's a strong focus on safety. I'll be getting the chance to go up and visit the site next year to help aid my understanding and get a look and see what I'm actually writing for, which is going to be really, it's exciting to look forward to. And I feel it's really beneficial to see your work in person. It's kind of helps fulfill or gives you a sense of achievement, I guess. The second project I was working on my placements was the vault retrieval project at Hinkley Point A. So there's some legacy waste in the old vaults that is to be retrieved, packaged up and disposed of in a more sustainable and environmentally friendly way. So we're not just leaving it around, we're dealing with it responsibly. And it's taking part in things like that makes you feel like you're doing something for the greater good. The ways I've been able to get involved with that has been a very unique opportunity. So that it's been really, really beneficial. I've also just started on the tails management facility project with Urenco. This is another one of our clients, but I haven't done too much with that project yet, so there's not much to say about. I've also had the opportunity to attend the Society of Radiological Protection's annual conference with some of my team. You can see us there in the bottom right. This was an amazing exposure to the industry at large. And again, no two graduate schemes are the same. I'm only going to get the chance to go here if I'm on the radiation protection scheme, and I'm sure there's equivalents for the other graduate schemes as well. But this is to do with getting chartership and things like that, or equivalent of chartership. So going there helped to contextualize my role, helped me to really see the vision of where my career might go and what kind of opportunities are out there and what's available to me at Cavendish as well. Hopefully I'm going to get the chance to visit a few Cavendish and Babcock sites. I've got some planned up coming up in the new year, which is really exciting to look forward to. We've got our own facilities that deal with things as well as client sites. So it's going to be great to get more hands-on and get that practical experience, which is the best kind. A great part of the rotational placements is that you can get exposure to other disciplines as well. You can test out the waters to see where you fit best. So where I've been in radiation protection for most of my projects, I plan to visit some of the other science and safety disciplines to get a more rounded experience and to just see how those disciplines mesh together. So it's really valuable and really useful to be able to explore those other outlets, and that's something you can do on the graduate scheme. Outside of project work, I've got involved in a lot of opportunities that early careers provides. So STEM events as well. You can see in the bottom left picture there, that's me and one of my co-workers. We're at a careers fair in the University of Sheffield, just promoting STEM and promoting the company. But as well as that, I've taken part in helping out with mock interviews at high schools and mock assessment centres, as well as helping out at science clubs for primary school age children. This is part of going back to sustainability as well. You have some objectives to just do a few events each year just to help promote the next generation of people engaging in the nuclear industry or STEM in general. The company also has what's called a Be Kind Day, after another one of the core principles, being kind. This is a day dedicated to giving back by volunteering to local charitable events. I took part in one this year with a co-worker, which was us out in a swamp doing some conservation work in Greater Manchester on a Friday, which in the sun ended up being really fun and really rewarding work. Another way I've got involved is through the Early Careers Steering Group. A group of graduates from each business unit get to gather together and give feedback to early careers, and they really listen to the feedback that we give them. They've acted swiftly to make big changes and worthwhile improvements that have already seen positive results. So it's really nice knowing that you're heard and knowing that your feedback is taken seriously. It makes you feel valued, definitely, in the company. And there's so many more opportunities that I won't have time to list today, but there's lots to get stuck into. Looking to the future, I'm looking forward to completing the graduate program. So I've got another 3 years, another year of rotations, but another 2 years after that. You're in a substantive role, but early careers still check in on you just to make sure, and just to help you get to chartership status, or what we call SQEP, suitably qualified and educated persons in your technical roles. So in science, SQEP is one of the key markers for the end of the graduate scheme. One of my goals is to become a radiation protection advisor, which is sort of the equivalent to chartership, I'd imagine, and then becoming more independent and building those skills to lead a project, and maybe more in the future. I know the radiation protection team is hiring for 2025, so I may see some of you again. But yeah, that's sort of been my experience so far, and I'll hand back over. Now. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. So I'm just going to talk through, so I mentioned before that you'll get to hear a bit more from me. So I just want to talk through the recruitment process. So everyone should have received the link in the chat to the Early Careers Babcock website. So as I mentioned before, that is where we will advertise all our graduate programs. So please do feel free to access that link and view the available graduate programs that we have available. What I would always advise everyone to do is apply as soon as possible. So if you do find that you are interested in one of our graduate programs, please do apply, put your application through as soon as possible, just so that you can get it through the door, just because we do receive a high number of interest for our graduate programs. So if we do find that we have a high number of interest, we do tend to close those roles early, as soon as possible, once we've received a high number. What I would always advise as well is, so if any candidates or graduates, you're unsure of what graduate program that you would like to apply for, there is a little tool on our website. So it's called the Program Finder. So what you can do is you can access the Program Finder on our website via the same link, and you can select any degrees any subjects that's related to your degree, and that should give you, some available graduate programs that might be applicable to your degree or the subjects that you've studied. So just to quickly talk through the application process. So as I said, we do advertise all our graduate programs on the Babcock Early Careers website. So you should be able to scroll through the graduate programs that we have live, graduate and undergraduates, and also year placement programs. So once you've selected the role that you would like to apply for, you'd need to click apply, and then you'll be taken to our application site. You will be required to set up a candidate profile, but once you've done this, you can just apply for roles throughout Babcock. So I believe one of the graduates mentioned earlier, so you will be required to do some online assessments. So if you are shortlisted, we will reach out to you just to complete some online assessments from our Solver, our online assessment platform provider called Solver. So this really just helps us to select candidates to invite to an interview or one of our assessment centers. And then the next step is you will be invited to an interview or assessment center. Again, that is if you are shortlisted. So depending on the role that you're applying for, you might be asked to attend an interview or an assessment center. And this is a really good chance for us to find out a bit more about you and for you to also find out a bit more about us as well. And then soon after your final assessment, we'll then let you know if you've secured a place. Usually it's within a couple of days after your assessment center or your interview. And then the final process is you'll join us in 2025 September if you are successful. So if you are offered a role, you will join us in the next year, so September 2025. One thing just to touch on as well is with regards to security clearance. So if you are offered a role within Babcock, you will be required to complete security clearance, so security checks, just to satisfy the Ministry of Defence. And this basically means that the candidate will need to be will need to be a resident in the UK for 5+ years. So just moving on to a few hints and tips. So again, just from a recruitment perspective, just to give you some tips with regards to when you do apply for your graduate program, or if you do get invited and shortlisted for an assessment center or an interview. So one thing I always tell all candidates and graduates is make sure that you consider your option before applying. So unfortunately, this cycle, we can only accept one application per cycle per candidate. So if you're unsure of what roles that you'd like to apply for, as I mentioned before, use the program finder, utilize that tool to find, the available roles that are suitable, that are relevant to your degrees or relevant to the subjects that you've studied in university. Always also make sure that your CV and cover letter is up to date. We can spot AI answers, so please make sure that your cover letter and your CV is up to date. You will go through the application process and it will ask you to upload your CV and cover letter. So in terms of the application, interview, assessment centers, I always advise make sure you take your time, especially in terms of the application process. You do have the functionality for you to start an application and come back to it. So please do take your time, be thorough, and keep it simple as well. So in terms of your CV, your cover letter, and then also just make sure you proofread your work as well. So in terms of the assessment center or interview, if you are shortlisted, please do make sure that you do your research on Babcock. We have given you a bit of information around Babcock, what we do, where we do it. So I would always advise make sure you do your research on Babcock prior to coming to an assessment center or an interview. Be prepared, come with any questions that you'd like, and be prepared for, obviously, you'll be assessed throughout the day. So be prepared to answer some questions as well. And as I mentioned before, the assessment center or the interview is an opportunity for us to get to know you and for you to get to know us as well. Some of the assessors that potentially could be assessing you on the day might have gone through a graduate scheme. So they do understand, the position that you're in if you are invited to an assessment center or an interview. So just make sure that you're curious, be yourself, tell us about you. And we, as I said, we want to know about you, but also be curious to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. As I said, some of the assessors, they've been in your position, they know what you're going through, so they are more than happy to answer any questions that you'd like. So I know we touched, one of the graduates also touched upon it earlier. So you will be supported throughout your program. So you will have a mentor and a buddy if you are successful in gaining a place on one of our many graduate programs. So that's just a bit of information around the application process and a few hints and tips. So I do believe we've now finished. As I said before, this is the link to access all the graduate programs that we have available, and that link has been sent in the chat as well. So please do feel free to scroll through and view our available programs that we have live on the website. So are we moving on to the questions?
Yeah, if we put our cameras on, we've got a few questions coming through there. How much longer have we got? Is Joshua still here? Just watching our time. Well, I'm seeing a few questions coming through here. If I jump on a few, where did we start? There were the questions about desk-based roles. We do have a large variety of roles open at the moment on our careers site. In terms of graduate entry roles, I mean, I think everybody's got a set of PPE. We do get out on site, but it very much depends on the nature of your job, how much time you're spending out in the work environment or out in the industrial environments as opposed to in our offices. But it's a blend. It depends on the job that you're doing at that moment in time, and the site that you're working at and where you're working. Relocation, there was a question around. Sites, hubs. Your job is likely to be based at one of our hubs. So Plymouth, Bristol, Warrington, Rosyth, Clyde, Leicester, Vermistany. As our main hubs. We do have some people based in Andover. We've got some people based in Portsmouth, but the majority of our roles tend to be associated with one of those locations. Mainly if you're joining from education, then you're going to want to be with colleagues to learn from, as well as being able to undertake tasks, through your workflow, through your workload. So that would be, you are going to need to be near one of the places that we operate. I don't know if that's been the experience of the Kirsten or Tom or Isla. And same from your perspective regarding the relocation piece.
I would say I know a few people who didn't relocate because they already lived nearby. But it's very different being able to be in the office and create connections as to just calling people.
Yeah.
It's definitely networking wise huge advantages, but some teams will also have requirements for you to be in the office on certain days. So you will need to be reasonably close, I would say.
Okay. Seeing the questions coming through. I see a number of questions about graduate student visas. If you're on a student visa and you would need to convert to a graduate visa, because of the constraint around security clearance, we look for 5 years residence in the UK to be able to achieve an SC level, security clearance level through UK NSV. If you have come to the UK to study, the likelihood of you having been in the UK for 5 years to undertake that level of background check is not particularly high. So we tend not to be able to consider applications from those looking for visa sponsorship for roles with us at a graduate level. There's another question here. Oh, somebody asking, how do they stand out at an assessment centre?
I can
go on.
Mark. Yeah, I was going to say, so I think it's Sam. So what I would advise, I think I mentioned it in my previous slide, if you are attending an assessment centre shortly, I would just advise, be curious, be open, be honest, be yourself, come prepared with questions. Make sure you do your research as well on the graduate program that you've applied for. As I said, everyone on the assessment center panel, they're all really friendly. They all wishing you the best. And, some of them would have been in your position, so they understand what you're going through. So that's what I would always advise. Just do your research, be prepared. If you have any questions, come with the questions and be curious, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Yeah.
Know the principles, and STAR is a cracking technique to have in your back pocket.
Definitely. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Yep.
There we go. Right, I think my audio cut for whatever reason. So I was talking, but I think any of it was getting out. I know this finishes at 4, so just kind of jumping back to 2 of the questions. The first one about desk-based roles. Yes, it does depend on the role. It also depends on the site, as was said. I think probably your best chance if you're looking for something as a healthy balance of like desk-based on site is choosing a location that actually has a site to work on. So the ones that I can say for now are Rosyth and Devonport, because both of them are working dockyards.
Yeah.
And like for your first placement, you get put on it regardless. You don't really have a choice in that because you just joined the company. But depending on the graduate scheme, some of them are more self-led. So say for my scheme, I look for roles. I reach out to people in different projects and I respond to advertised roles. So there's a degree of choice in that and just leading what it is you want. Production engineering, for one, is something that requires a lot of on-site presence and off-desk presence.
Where we're doing stuff and making stuff, so Devonport's great
Yeah.
because there are 3 or 4 platforms in at any given time that require work happening on them. Rosyth, obviously, got a continuous requirement for people on Type 31, and Clyde, to the same degree. There's never stuff not happening there. I'm trying to think of the nicest way
and
of
to be honest, I
phrasing
think it's something that is very much encouraged from an engineering standpoint, is actually getting out onto site. Because ultimately, if you sit at your desk all day and you don't interact with, say, the fitters, the mechanical fitters, or the welders, or any of like the staff on the shop floor, then how do you know what you're producing for them will be up to par and actually help them?
I think Tom touched on that, didn't you, about the seeing sites and seeing what we do.
Yeah, there's a bit of collaboration, really. Like we're all trying to produce a product, to a high engineering quality standard. So we just work together. But and I've forgotten the second one, so I'll ignore that. But yeah, generally speaking, I would just recommend the graduate scheme.
Right. Any other questions from the people that we've got on the call?
There's one about the presentations.
Oh, right. Kirsten, go on. You say.
Yeah, I did mine on. You do get told what to do it on.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did mine on what is a systems engineer. And I helped out with assessment centres in February, I think. It was a different thing.
Yeah.
One of the changes that we've made this year is with AI, people preparing presentations away from the assessment centre. We look to have a presentation created and delivered within the centre itself. So you'll be given a subject, and it's not so much assessing you on the content or the quality or how you choose to present something. It's the ability to articulate your response to the question that's being set. One of the key challenges within the program, within our workplace, is being able to concisely articulate the response to a question that's being set of you at a moment in time, and that's what the presentation step is looking to determine.
Yeah, and just to add as well, as it's been previously mentioned, you will be given the topic prior to the assessment centre. It's usually about a 10-minute presentation, so it's not a long presentation. And again, you will be required to bring it along with you on the assessment centre day to actually present.
It's not as scary as it sounds. It sounds really bad. It's really not that bad.
No.
So Felix has asked here some of the programs, the links at the beginning are closed. So this is volumetric, really. So if we only have a requirement for 2 engineers in a particular location, and we receive a volume of screened candidates that we can be assessing for that volume of roles, then we'll close the program, because it's unfair to keep attracting people to a particular position when there are only a handful of opportunities sitting there. So if you've seen something that's closed, I know some of the ones that you might be referring to, that will be because we've a high level of interest, we've a high level of people who've gone through screening and potentially are there to be invited to assessment, and we are comfortable that we will be able to offer and close the requirements out for the volume that we have. However, in other areas where we have volumes of requirements, so mechanical engineering, electrical systems, where we've got national requirements, we will always be looking for people right up to the final day of the program, or the at least the attract element of that being open. That's what I've seen so far.
Yeah, perfect. I am going to have to butt in now because unfortunately we have run out of time.
Okay.
So I just want to, thank all of you guys for going for your presentation as well as you did and answering people's questions as clearly as you did as well. That was great. I hope everybody in the chat found it insightful and useful. If anybody did miss anything, please don't worry. This was recorded and will be on our website and YouTube in the coming week. So that'll be Career Map TV. So yeah, basically all that's left to do is thank you to everybody, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the week.
Thanks very much, Joshua. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Yeah.